Hello everyone, we're going to talk more about tracking, and this time it's going to be automatic or semi-automatic tracking. Okay, for that I will delete the light on the cube first and set the camera to more reasonable settings. So X is 0, Y and Z I'll keep the same for now. Rotation of X is 90, and then rotation Z is 0, and that will give me a camera that points straight ahead. If I go to the camera view now, I can drag down the Z-axis until I find the crosshairs where the floor should be, and let me zoom in by clicking home, and this fills my viewport with the camera view. Okay, now the next step is I'm going to import the footage that I want to track. So for that I'm going to go to this tab here, and then VFX and motion tracking. I have my camera view there. I don't need this, the keyframes for tracking. I don't need that, so I can get rid of that. So that's optional. You don't really have to do that. And then I will import my footage and the tracking layout here. So I will go to my footage. You can find your footage wherever you saved it on your computer. Open it up, and straight away I'm going to do the things that we discussed in class that we do as soon as we import any footage into Blender. So I'll go to the Render tab, go to Color Management, change the view transform from filmic to standard if it's not on standard already, and then set scene frames and prefetch, and that will get me the whole thing into the RAM. Now another thing that I need to check here is the frame rate. The frame rate is at 24 FPS. This doesn't matter, it's an image sequence, but I don't remember what I shot this at, probably 25 frames, but anyway, I'll keep it at 24 frames for now. It's going to always be changed later. Now, to track this scene automatically, what we need to do is add trackers as we did before, but now we're going to add these automatically. Now these settings here we discussed in class, so I'm just going to go through the practical steps, but we're going to talk about them very briefly. So the motion model here, we said that there isn't much shift, there isn't much perspective shift in this scene, so I don't really need anything more than location. If it gives me a good result, then we're done. It gives me a good result. So I'm going to keep location, and I'm going to match previous frame, and of course I'm going to click normalize so it will disregard any changes in light in this scene. The tracking settings, extras settings, I'm not going to change anything here. That's good enough. And now instead of adding trackers, I'm going to detect features. So it will detect features, and it will give me this option. And there is a threshold setting here. So if I change the threshold, it tries to be more accurate. If I increase the threshold, I will keep it at around 1. That will give me enough markers on the floor. The only thing I need to be aware of is that there are places in this footage that move. So branches, some leaves blowing in the wind, there are people moving there. I have to be aware that these things are happening and stay away from these places. So these trackers, for example, are useless. But anyway, what we're going to do is just select all the trackers by pressing A, and now I'm going to track the whole thing. So that tracked it. That's done. Now, what I'm looking for, one of the main reasons to do this lesson this way is that to show you that you can find bad tracks just by looking at this graph without even looking at the footage. So anything that goes really away from the central movement of these trackers, like stray hairs, just get rid of them, and that you can just select and delete, select and delete curve, select and delete curve, select and delete curve, and you can see that what is being deleted are mostly the tracks that move. So I have plenty of tracking data here. I can certainly get rid of most of or all of the things actually that are out of place. But if I need to put anything back in, I can add manual tracking markers as well. So it's not a big deal. So this cleaned that up. And now if I look here, most of them that were deleted from here because they're the ones that move. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete these tracks because it looks like they might be causing problems because this palm tree is moving. So I'm going to get rid of all of these trackers. I'll keep the ones on the floor, and I'm gonna get rid of these on the branches. I'll just check to see if anything is moving. Yes, this one is moving, and the rest seem to be quite fixed. I don't like this tracker, so I'm gonna get rid of that. Okay, and the rest of them look like they are okay. So I can proceed now with my tracking data to solve the camera motion. Now, to do that, I'll just go to solve and I'll just press solve. It will give me a solve error of less than 1, which looks good on the surface, but it's not necessarily good because it might have detected a camera movement that is, well, not correct. And to check that, I'm going to go to frame 1 and check my floor. So these 3 trackers, I'm going to set those as the floor. And as you can see, we have a big problem here. It's looking it's looking at the scene from the top, which is not the case here. So I'm going to undo that. And instead, I'm going to go to tell Blender to refine the focal length and the optical center. And the radial distortion, why not? لبلاش. And then solve again. It will give me another solve error. Now I'm going to check again. Going to check these 3 for floor and see what happens. Now this is much more like it. This is a much better result. This looks like my floor. And now I'm going to take this point here, just this tracker that is stuck to the tree, at the base of the tree, and set that as my origin. Now this is correct. It's sloping, the same slope that I have here. Everything looks good except the scale. The scale looks very big, but that's fine. We can set the scale, and I need this because I'm going to model, well, part of the tree anchoring around this point. I'm going to use that as reference in 3D space to anchor it. Now, to make sure, one more thing to make sure, I need to set as background and the scene setup so I can see where my tracker exactly is, my origin is, and it's exactly where it's supposed to be. Everything looks good. I'm going to drag that down. Everything looks good. And so we can basically proceed. However, I'm going to set the scale. So I'm going to say that the distance between this and that, for example, is 1 meter. See what happens. I think that gave me a much better result. I mean, you can see things lining up very well. That's the floor. The floor is sloping, so that's correct. And it looks like it gave me a better result. Now, I'm not sure if this is 1 meter from here to here, but it's close enough. So once I'm done, I can go and set up tracking scene. Now, of course, this will happen. Don't really care much for that. So I'm going to go to my layout view and have a look. Okay, maybe the scale is off, so I can certainly go back to the tracking settings, set a bigger scale, maybe I don't know, 3 or something, and then set scale again, and that will reduce the size of this cube. I mean, this is arbitrary for our uses now. It's not really that important. Okay. So the next step, if I'm happy with that, and I'm not, so I'll do 2 meters instead. That looks a bit more reasonable. So I'm going back to layout. and I'm going to delete this geometry. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to delete that. I'm going to zoom in on my scene and start modeling this part of the tree. Okay, to do that, I'm going to create before I create anything, since I set up the scene, I need to see my tracking markers. So I'm going to go here to this arrow and click motion tracking, and that will give me my trackers. I don't think you can see them very well. So I'm going to increase the size. I hope you can see them now. And that will show me where my trackers are. And that is the tracker for the tree where I'm going to basically, there it is, there. So where I'm going to basically, إذا ما تشوفونها بعد حالتكم حالة. This is where I'm going to start modeling the tree. I'm going to use that as reference. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to split my screen, zoom in on here a little bit in the camera view, and this will be just a normal view. I need to just figure out where my camera is. My camera is here. If your camera is too small in size, I mean, this doesn't affect anything. You can go here to your camera settings and find the size of the camera in viewport display. Okay, so you can do that if you can't see your camera. Okay, so the camera is pointing this way, and that is the base of my tree. And these are the branches, and they're in the exact place where they're supposed to be. So everything looks good. This is the floor in front of the tree. These are the markers for the floor in front of the tree. So that's there, and so on. Okay, so create a cylinder, because trees are cylinders. And I'm going to get rid of the caps. So I don't want anything in the cap, so it will be hollow. And I think that's that. I mean, I'm not going to bother with the number of vertices. I'm going to delete half of it anyway. So let's do that. I'm going to delete half of it. So I can go to the top view. Can't see anything. I'll switch to edit mode. And I'm going to go to X-ray mode as well. So everything will be selected. So I'm going to get rid of all these vertices. So X. Get rid of all these vertices, so I have half a cylinder. All right, and now I'm going to position this. So I'm going to go back to object view. Okay, so cylinders, any object in Blender, when it's created, it's about 2 meters high. So I'm going, and this is going beneath the floor. So to put it on the base, basically, I can just go in Z 1 meter, which is half its size, half its height, and that will sit on the floor where my marker is. Okay, now I can have a look at this from the top view. Can't really see it from the top view, so I'm going to grab that and I'm going to move it in this direction, move it in that direction, rotate it, and I'm locking the rotation to I'm locking the rotation to this, and then I'm going to scale it. Now if I scale this, it's going to scale, as you can see, on the center, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do X-ray mode here so I can see what I'm doing. Now I want to scale and rotate this in this view. And I want to rotate it and scale it on the base, so the pivot will be on the base. Now that's easy. You select it and you go to Object and Set Origin to 3D Cursor. No, because I moved it, so sorry about that. I'll just move it back to where it was to begin with, where this is still at 0, 0, 0. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to model it. So I'll go to Object, Set Origin, Origin to 3D Cursor, and that will set my origin right at 0, 0, 0. Now I can move it. نعتذر لهذا الخلل الفني. So now I can scale this. So press Scale, S for Scale. Maybe scale it up a little bit. So scale Z. Rotate. Grab. just so it will sort of match the size of the tree. Now I can go here and position it for the exact placement of the marker. Okay, so that's there. Yeah, approximately there. Let's do this a little bit and bring it forward. I think this is a more accurate representation of where the tree is. Yeah, it's right here. So I'm going to fix everything here, and for that, before I do that, I scaled it, I rotated it, so I'm going to to apply rotation and scale. And now I am going to go to edit mode, add a few loop cuts, and basically just massage this tree into the shape that I want. So I'm going to select some vertices here. It's better to go to X-ray mode to make sure that I selected all the vertices. So I'm going to select vertices here, and I'm going to go to the proportional editing, grab and do that. This doesn't need to be very, very accurate, so okay, undo that mess. So grab this. So we'll go here, and it flattens out as the tree is flattening out in that direction. Not going to do that, just choose these, grab, push these in, grab that, grab that. Yeah, that's where it is. That's where that is. That's where that is. I'm going to take this up, and I think that's enough. That's mimicking the shape of the tree. Okay, and we have that. Now, I'll right click on this and shade smooth. Actually, yes, just shade smooth. And the next step is I want to project this video on this piece of geometry. So I'm going to do that now. And to do that, I need to select it. And I'll need to go to shading. And in shading, I'll give it a new material, delete this, save my work because I think it might crash. So I'm going to save it here. Okay, so get an image texture. Plug the image texture directly into the surface. And now open the sequence. So select all by pressing A, open image, and auto refresh. Okay, now if I play, you can see that the video is playing on it, but it's not placed correctly. So if I go to my render view and go to the camera view, now if this happens to you and you don't see the rest of it in this view, that is because you need to go to the render settings here. You go to render settings, and then you go down to film, and you press transparent. Okay, and that will give you a transparent background where your camera background images will appear. Okay, now if you have Node Wrangler installed, and I told you how to install Node Wrangler before, but just in case, you go to preferences, you just write Wrangler or something, and you install Node Wrangler. Just check this, and that's it. If you have that, you can just go Control T, and that will give you these coordinate and mapping nodes automatically. I'll save my work. I don't really need the mapping node. I'll keep it here, but I don't really need it. The only thing that I need is to change this connection from UV to window. And now everything is lining up correctly. Okay, now if you see a difference in the colors between your texture and the rest of the video, that is because in the camera, if you go to the camera settings, you will find that the background images are at 50% opacity here. Okay, so increase that and everything will disappear and everything will basically be the same color and all good. Okay, so the next step I want to do is I want to show you that you can change the geometry on this and give it another material to create, well, create a simple hole in the tree. Okay, so edit mode, face selection mode. I'll select these three and those three and these three, why not? And then go to this view and extrude back. Okay, as much as you want. Now you can make this much prettier. You can make a good shape on this that looks like a hole in the tree, not this shape that is carved with a chisel. Okay, now while this is selected, I want to give it a different material, but I want to give these walls different materials as well. So I'm just pressing Shift and selecting these faces. Now, to add another material to this, other than the video that is playing here, we can go to the Material tab, and you don't really need to go anywhere else. You just go to the Material tab, add a new material, new. So you have the first material is the video material, so I'll call that video. And the second material, I'll call that hole. All right. And while these are selected, I'll select this material, the second material, and press Assign. And that should give me this look. Now, I can change the color. And as you can see, it's changing. I'll give it just a gray or I don't know, more of a brown, really. Dark brown. Well, something like that. And now I have a hole in the tree. Of course, this can be very complicated. Now, you can't really do this setup with the camera view other than from the camera view. It only works from the camera view. So there it is. You have a different texture. If you add some lighting to it, so I'll go to render view here. It's all very dark because I have no lights in my scene. So if you go to the light set, if you add a light, sorry, I'll add an area light because it's soft and because the environment here is soft, and it looks like the sun is coming from this way. It's a very soft late evening, late afternoon sun, well, sunset really. Okay, and I'll point that there. Maybe I'll take this down because we said sunset, so long shadows and all that. And I think that should do. To check the light, sorry about that. To check the light, increase the strength of the light until you're satisfied with it, and then you can change your light accordingly. So there, for example. And now you have a hole in the tree. Of course, this is just a preview. It can get much softer. Let me just save and show you what it looks like in Cycles. I hope. Yeah, here's Cycles. Okay, so it looks slightly better, slightly better in Cycles. And well, that's that. So if this moves, I'll go back to Eevee, so I can move it as a video. You can see that my computer crashed. Thank you very much, and see you next time.